Welcome to this new Addon Spotlight. In this Addon Spotlight we're gonna look at the latest version of the C17 Globemaster, which is now version 1.0. The good thing is that there are multiple changes being performed by the developers, right? It was, I would say, it took almost 2 months before we heard something from them, but they made a lot of progress. First thing is they've now created a manual of 20 plus pages where they describe where you can find all the buttons, but also the procedures. Some of the work is still in progress, so that it's not completely final as we speak. In addition to that, they did a completely revamp of the external model. They incorporated PBR texturing, the wing flex textures were remade. They added the maintenance decals throughout the external model, and they implemented the decal-based liveries. So they kind of pimped their liveries, and you can see that if we're looking at this one, it looks amazing now. You can also see all the details here. That's really nice. Also the usage here, really great to see. In addition to that, they modified the lights, right? So they updated the lights because there were some issues with it. So that's cool. And they added a custom Humvee triggered when payload above a certain weight, right? So if you change the payload, and you can do that by pressing the option here, you can, I would say, have a Hummer or Humvee added to the aircraft. Oh, wrong key. So, in addition to that, they modified a lot of things in the interior, right? So if we look at the interior, it now looks really nice. So also, if we look at the back, it looks really detailed. Also, all the buttons are really realistic. There are some new side panels, which they mean with this, which are added, and they redid the HUD, which now has a nice button to switch between the different modes, right? You can switch to day, auto, or night, or off, and that will change the view how the HUD works. The yoke and the roof are remade, right? So yoke completely being remade. Sorry, it's in front of us. Looks like that they still need to do some buttons coloring, but that's, I would say, work in progress. The throttle credent, which was the one here, it's being completely remade, and you can see it really looks nice. A lot of detail, especially with the knowledge that this is a free airplane, right? So you can simply download it from Flight Sim 2. You can find the download link in the description of this video and download your own copy. What did they do? Other than that, they made some modifications to the rear loadmaster controls, and also removed unneeded textures, right? So it's really 1.0 version 1.0 worthy. They also did a lot of SDK rework, right? So the electricity system, the fuel consumption, the lights, which are now working correctly, the in-air reverser code that was tweaked, and they added one livery, the IAF livery, added the Expedition Earth livery, and they added the Memphis livery. So 3 additional liveries. Cool to say, right? Keep in mind that the flight model is now forced to modern, right? Because that's the modern way of managing Flight Simulator. It's always recommended to use the flight model in the modern mode. All the buttons, we're not going to them, but you can see that they all have clear descriptions, like the door and the ramp, the troop door left, the troop door right, and you can even hover over them, right? And the correct text is now being displayed. That wasn't the case in, I would say, earlier stages of this aircraft. So let's see if we have the Humvee in our back, and to do that we need to go to the outside or to the back of the aircraft. Well, we could have already also taken the other aircraft, or other door, I should say. You can see that the door is a little bit lifted from the floor. So let's change the weight, right? So let's change it and let's see what happens. Because let's change it to, what shall we say? Let's put a 1 in front. Oh, then we're bypassing the this looks cool. I don't see the Humvee here. So Maybe that's something which needs to be reworked, or maybe you need to install something else. It looks like that this doesn't work yet, right? Added custom Humvees triggered when payload above a certain weight. Well, if I look at the weight, which you normally change here, it's pretty high, so I was expecting something here, but maybe there's something I'm missing here. But again, right, it's cool. So let's take it out for a flight again. After we visited the other positions here, right, you can see some panels here being added. That was not the case, and also the this side has been modified. Some nice panels here, probably require some work, some additional work to be done. So let's go upstairs. Oh, you can do that either the easy way or the hard way. Well, this was the hard way. Let's go inside. Or let's place ourselves in the pilot seat and then see if we can take off. I did it the easy way, right? I press the Ctrl E key. You can see that already one of the engines is starting to run. Now we also need to make sure that the other ones are starting. So let's have a look from the outside. Right, this one is running. The other three are still silent, but that's expected because it's also silent in here, or silent, it's, I would say, silent isn't the right wording. They're in neutral state here, so let me also decrease the throttle. So again, right, there's now documentation available in the folder of the C17 Globemaster. You will find it in the community folder. There's now a folder called documentation, and that's where you can find the documentation for this aircraft. There goes engine number 2. You need to give it some time, right? It's engine per engine that they started. So if you would go outside now, you would see that the second engine also starts running. In the meantime, engine number 3 also starts running. So let's close the doors and close the ramp. So you need to scroll to close it, right? So everything is closed except the parachute doors, because I pressed these buttons because they were already closed, right? So it's good. So engine number 4 also starting, so that means that we're almost ready for takeoff. Master caution reset. Brightness can be managed by using this button off the HUD, and again here you can see the different options. The HUD itself can be either lowered or shown using this option, and then you can use the different modes here if you want. As you can see, nothing changes currently. Brightness can be increased and decreased, right? So if you want to see the brightness a little bit better, then you can move it around. And you can change the modes again, right? So you can either set it to auto, which means that we'll automatically try to figure out what it is, and else simply go to the day mode. Well, engine number 4 has almost started completely. So everything is running as we speak, so that's good. So let's make sure that all the lights are burning, right? If we don't do that, probably not a good idea. So let's figure out where we can find them. Probably it's on the top. And the nice thing is that you can always, I would say, use the different options to control it, right? So we can switch on the navigation lights, strobes, retract, we don't need to do that. Anti-collision light is on. anything else. These are the landing lights, we don't need them. Maybe we can switch on the ones for taxiing. Really see how big the aircraft is. It's really a nice one. So while we're all done, right, we've set everything as it should be, or actually normally should be. So let's see if we can take it up in the air. So we're gonna remove the park brakes, increase throttling. And then nicely taxi. So you can see that taxiing is kind of hard, right? Steering is not so easy as it, well, I'd say, was initially. But that's probably also because we made the aircraft pretty heavy. So maybe I should change that a bit. Let's do it like this, and let's remove it. Yeah, it had to do with that piece. So warning for you, don't make the aircraft too heavy, because then you might be screwed. Although it also doesn't work as expected. So there's a trick for that, right? You can press the star key on the numpad, and then you will put only a brake on one of the sides. At least, normally. It looks like it's really nasty to make turns. Maybe it's also me. Probably it is me. Let's find another way in that case. No, there's no other way to do that. Well, there is one other way, but that's tricking Flight Simulator. So let's trick Flight Simulator in this case, because else it will be a very long movie. So we're gonna quit to the main menu, and we're gonna take off from the runway, right? So this is something, I'm not sure if it's, probably it's me, but else it would be something which needs to be, I would say, reviewed to see, okay, hey, can we make it a little bit more nicer to take off? So we're gonna take off from runway 88. So all cool. Some nice information here, right? So it can carry 3 Apache helicopters. Pretty impressive. So here we go again. Move the HUD. So everything should be ready now for takeoff. So let's increase the throttling. Remove the parking brakes. And let's go full speed ahead. You can see that all numbers are going in red. That's because we're going full throttle. So probably we need to decrease the throttle.
971 leaving my airspace Incoming 701 frequency change.
So you can see that as soon as you decrease the throttle, it will go back to normal levels. So I'm not sure if I would say damage mode has been built in, but be careful, right? Because those, I would say, alerts are normally not good, and that's probably what you want to prevent. Also, the rest of it works nice. So if you look from the outside, right, you can see how massive this aircraft is. The cool thing is that everything works. Including autopilot, etc. Right? So if you want to use the autopilot, you can use the options here, right? So you can switch on the autopilot option. You can change the speed if you want. You can set the spoilers and API. Then you can also set the speed hold, right? And then you can directly see it directly takes action. So directly decreases speed. The same thing is for the altitude, right? It has been set to 10,000 feet, and you can use the alt hold mode, which sets it to a static hold, or you can change it using the vertical speed mode. Although that doesn't look like to work yet, so maybe that's something which needs to be worked on. You see that both there's a speed hold and a speed nav. Speed nav, as you can see, it doesn't work yet, but I do expect that they will fix that in a future version. The altitude hold mode now works. You can also press it, right? If you press the altitude hold mode, it will simply start increasing until it's, I would say, at the altitude which you configured. You see that there's, I would say, a difference between the altitude mode here and here. Normally you would expect that this one would be exactly the same as the one shown here, because that's with all the other aircrafts. It looks like that isn't the case. In addition to that, it looks like that you can set the speed mode, but it's not honoring it. So maybe it's expected, because for example the CRGs, if I'm correct, also only have the option to switch on one of the modes and not both of them. You would expect that the auto throttle switch on would say result in this. You can see that it has now done it, so this is good, so it works. This also works, right? We can change the altitude to 3500 now. So one thing we didn't play with is, of course, the heading mode. And you can see the heading mode has, I would say, a few options, right? It has the banking limit, and the banking limit means that it doesn't, I would say, turn too fast. That can be configured using this button, and then here we have the option to set the heading. But that also doesn't work yet, so probably that's some work in progress. I know that I saw some notes about this, so don't worry too much if it doesn't work. Flight director is currently switched off. We can switch it on. Approach mode, the HUD declutter, some other buttons here like the flight director, but this text appears to be this button. So there is still some work to do, but I must say I'm really impressed by all the work being done already by the team, right? So you can see that now all the displays are working. There is still some work to do to make these properly working, right? These are the MCDUs, which you can use to program the flight, but overall it's, I would say, really impressive. The other thing I didn't see yet is the navigation radios, so that's also probably a challenge if you want to change your frequency. That's not an option yet, but they will probably change that soonish. So GPS, flight mode, you can see everything has been set. We're climbing now to 3,500 feet, then it will level off nicely. So unfortunately we can't use the heading mode, at least not as far as I can see, because then you would expect this, that you can turn this button. Maybe the LNAV mode, right, which is used for to follow the GPS signal, that one might work, but we didn't program a flight yet, and there's no option to program it here, so I can't show you how to do that. So with that, with our nice C17 Globemaster in the air, using the autopilot on, this is the end of this movie. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm creating, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.